Good evening, this is Stephen Jacob, and today we're going to be analyzing the digital components and the mise en scène from the birthday dinner slash reveal scene in the 1993 film Mrs. Doubtfire. For those of you who haven't seen the film, just a little bit of a backstory leading up to this point. There was a couple named Daniel and Miranda. Daniel and Miranda ended up getting divorced, but Daniel loved their kids so much that he just wanted the opportunity to see them every day. And so he pretends to be this older lady named Mrs. Doubtfire and applies to babysit the kids while Miranda's at work. And so the kids were, while Miranda was at work, the kids would be watched over by this old lady, but little did they know that it was actually their dad in disguise. So during this time, Miranda ends up falling in love with a man named Stuart, and Stuart and Miranda wanted to go to a fancy restaurant for Miranda's birthday later on in the film. And so on that night, they invited the children and they wanted Mrs. Doubtfire to join them. But at the same time, Daniel had been applying to another job as the new host for a TV show for children. And his boss for that company wanted to interview Daniel at the same time and at the same exact restaurant that Miranda and the whole family wanted Mrs. Doubtfire to be at. So Daniel was kind of in a little bit of a dilemma. Should I be myself and do the interview with my boss, or should I be Mrs. Doubtfire and go with the family? So he basically tried to do both once he got to the restaurant, and this scene is him trying to be both Daniel and Mrs. Doubtfire, and this is also the scene where Miranda and the children and everyone realizes who Mrs. Doubtfire was this entire time. And so this is going to be an analysis of that, and let us begin. One thing you'll notice right away is the music playing in the background. This is what we refer to as non-diegetic sound. Sound which the audience can hear, but the characters can't. The main purpose for this is to give the audience a feel of what's going on in each shot. This is going to come into play later on. As you might have noticed, this is a restaurant, and you can see many people and you can hear them having conversations in the background. This is what we refer to as ambient sound. The main purpose for this is to show the audience the magnitude of the environment that they're in, and also to show the audience the multitude of people that are about to witness what's going to happen later on.
Can I help you, man?
Oh, sorry I'm late, but after all those scotches, I had to piss like a racehorse.
Now what you're seeing here is what we call eyeline match cut. This is when we join two shots. The first shot is where we see Mr. Lundy, whose eyes are directed at Daniel while Daniel is off screen. And then you see it immediately followed by a shot in which Daniel is looking at Mr. Lundy while Mr. Lundy is off screen. So here you see Mr. Lundy looking at Daniel. And now you see Daniel looking at Mr. Lundy.
Yeah?
Why in God's name are you dressed like a woman?
Another thing to take into consideration is duration of each shot. As you can probably tell, each shot is longer than the last, which is a way of emphasizing the intensity of the moment.
Host?
Euphigenia Doubtfire, dear. I specialize in the education and entertainment of children.
Surprise!
Oh, thank you very much. This looks terrific, eh?
Now, as you can see, Stuart is being served the same jambalaya, the same shrimp jambalaya that Mrs. Doubtfire had earlier put paprika or cayenne pepper all over. This is what's about to happen. This is about to lead into a plot point in the scene.
Where's Mrs. Doubtfire?
Well, I hope the dear lady's all right. Shall we start?
Yes, let's start. I don't want it to get cold. Go ahead.
Bon appetit.
All right, tell me, why would Mrs. Doubtfire be a good host?
I'm a hip old granny who could hip-hop, bebop, dance till you drop, and yo-yo make a wicked cup of cocoa.
Now Stuart eats that shrimp and starts to choke.
Oh, he's choking. He's choking. He's choking. Somebody help me. Somebody's choking. He's choking. Help us. Oh, God. Oh, God. He's choking here. Oh,
no. I killed the bastard.
Now, as you can see here, you see Miranda and the kids all trying to help Stuart while he's choking, all trying to help him spit it out. But you see it from kind of a far distance. This is what's known as point of view editing. You're seeing this from Mrs. Doubtfire, aka Daniel's point of view, because Daniel is sitting on the opposite end of the restaurant as he's watching all of this unfold.
Mrs. Doubtfire, help us. He's choking.
Help is on the way, dear!
And now you see a match cut as one character is running from one shot into the other, into the master shot, where all the characters are completing several actions at once.
Oh, no, work with me. Come on.
Now the shot starts with a medium shot of both Stuart and Mrs. Doubtfire, or Daniel. But as you might have noticed, it ended with Daniel and his mask ripping off, because this is the moment where everyone starts to realize who Mrs. Doubtfire was this whole time. And you start to see Miranda and the reaction of all the children as they just realized who was behind this mask.
Daddy?
Yeah, honey. It's me. Happy birthday.
Daniel! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! The whole time you were... The whole time!
And since this affects Miranda more than everybody, she gets the rest of the dialogue all to herself.
I have to go. We have to leave now. I have to leave. We have to leave now. I have to go. We're going. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry about the pepper. Yeah.
So I hope this was helpful. I hope this analysis of this particular scene was helpful. And I'll see you next time.